Is Auburn actually underrated?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Jake Crain of Crain & Company hanging out with us on this signing day edition of the show. We'll talk more about signing day and what do we even do with it moving forward, as well as like the conversation around spring practice, I think is fascinating. There's different angles there. But Jake, I saw this graphic. This is from 247, and they list Auburn as one of three teams, SMU, Auburn, Michigan, as some teams that are underrated entering 2025. You buy that?
Well, I mean, look, depending on what publication you look at, I've seen some that have Auburn as a top 10 team. I think if you're going to pitch it as underrated, it's that Auburn has kind of fallen into this, seems like doom loop of being very average or even below average.
Right.
And people don't view Auburn the same from a football standpoint. I mean, basketball right now, it's the exact opposite. But Auburn, people on the outside have stopped viewing Auburn as one of the big dogs or a big threat, not only nationally, but in the Southeastern Conference. So if you were going to take a poll in aggregate of outsiders, I think there is a chance, pretty good chance actually, that Auburn could be underrated. But some publications are going to try and, pick Auburn so it can look sexy if Auburn does well. But that's one of the things Auburn has to fight right now is the brand isn't nearly as hot nationally or as feared nationally or as respected nationally as it has been since really we were growing up. I mean, even the lulls that Auburn would go through, there'd be a couple years, but I mean, we had points where a down year was 8 wins, right? So right. I think a lot of it is the national perception of Auburn has kind of fallen off, and in that vein, I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, was it Andy Staples on 3 put Auburn at 11 or something like that, which is great. I would take it.
I hope.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a game changer, no question about it. The thing that's interesting about Auburn is like you look at all of the traits of what happens when these teams just kind of take a massive step forward. Like Auburn has all of the boxes marked. I mean, they've got the talent. They've got a nice combination of young guys and then guys who are now juniors who are draft eligible. As well as they've done a great job addressing needs in the portal, and they've got a quarterback that's extremely talented. It's just, can he put it all together at a new spot? To me, like, I don't think it's about the roster anymore, Jake. I mean, I do have some questions about Jackson Arnold, but I think with the pieces around him, he should be fine. Mm-hmm. To me, it's, well, what have we seen from a coaching standpoint for the last 2 years? And like, is that going to take a dramatic shift in the red zone, in the key downs on 3rd and 4th down? Like, does that change from last year to this year?
Yeah, and I think that's what made last year so disappointing is you felt like Auburn had kind of gotten back to a level where they could compete roster-wise. Not go undefeated, but at least put a really good product out on the field, beat some teams you're not supposed to beat, and kind of look like Auburn again. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition. And now this year, you kind of feel even better about it. Now, there are questions at quarterback, but I had questions about quarterback last year, obviously with Peyton Thorne. We'll see with Jackson Arnold. But to your point, yes, Zach, it is time for the development and the coaching at Auburn to be as good as the potential of the roster. Because at the end of the day, and I think Coach Freeze and any coach worth his salt will say this, the buck stops with the coaches. Either you got the good enough personnel in there and you're not developing them or making the right coaching decisions, whether that be in game or out of the game, or you're bringing in the wrong guys. You're not putting the team together right. So now when you look at Auburn's roster, you're like, well, man, we look like we can compete. We look different on the line of scrimmage. We've got the Cam Colemans. We've got some of these guys. We got the Keldrick Falks and these guys. At what point is that coaching going to start making a big difference in the positive? When are we going to start really out coaching people? Because at some point you're going to run into a roster and personnel that's as good or better than yours. And that's when you've got to lean on the in-game coaching, the play calling, the decision-making, how you practice that week. And I know Coach Freeze can do it, and he's brought in guys that can do it. That's been one of the most frustrating things is it seems like, all this positive momentum Auburn has had, one of the lagging parts is the development and making the right decisions from a coaching standpoint. And if you put those two things together, Auburn has everything else.
Are you talking about development from like at the player level? Or
I'm
like
the coaches
macro?
Developing the players, maxing out the players' efficiency, putting the players in the best position possible to be able to go out there and let them play fast and not think as much, but be sound and to be clutch. That's another thing, like having that ability that when it's like watching Auburn basketball right now. I'll give you a great example. It's one of the rare times as an Auburn fan where I'm watching us play, and I hope I don't jinx us, but I'm like, how are we going to win this game? Like, how are we? Yeah, I'm kind of nervous about it. There's always that thing in the back of your mind, is Auburn going to blow it? But I watch that, like, how is Auburn going to win this game? Well, when I watch Auburn football, I'm like, all right, how are we going to lose it? How are we going to lose it? And you're just waiting on it, and it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. So putting that clutch gene in there, that alpha gene in there of regardless of if we play our best or we just play good, or even if we play okay, we're going to find a way to win the game. That is culture, and that is cultivated by the coaching staff.
Yeah, I don't have an issue when Auburn loses on the road against a team that's way better than them. Like, obviously, you want to get to that point where you give yourself a shot, but that's not the issue with, like, when I look back at the failure that was last season, it's the losing to Cal, which your roster is better than. It's the losing to Arkansas, which your roster is better than. It's the losing to Oklahoma, which you outplayed, but you threw a terrible ball. Yeah, it's losing to these teams that you're worse than. And I'm just looking at this year's schedule. How many teams do you think have a more talented roster? We're talking strictly on paper. I mean, obviously, scheme and coaching matters. Baylor, not a better roster than Auburn. No. Ball State, South Alabama, at Oklahoma. Does Oklahoma have a better roster than Auburn? I'm not sold on it.
Now look, I think Mateer is nice at quarterback. The kid they got from Washington State, I thought he was the best quarterback in the portal. But overall, with what they lost on defense and what's happened in the transfer portal offensively, I think that is a very similar roster from a potential standpoint on the road, and that's what you want. That's like best case scenario.
Yeah, sure. At A&M on paper is probably a little more talented.
Probably more talented.
Yeah. Georgia, more talented. Mizzou, probably not.
After what they lost this past year,
they lost a lot. So. Luther and changing quarterbacks and all that. At Arkansas has become a farm team for other SEC schools at this point.
That loss was brutal.
And that one, I don't know if it was worse than Cal, but they were both pretty bad.
They're both inexcusable. They're both inexcusable.
Sure. Kentucky at home. Auburn's better than Kentucky on paper. No question about it. At Vandy, I don't care how much love we want to give Diego Pavi, but like Auburn should never lose to Vandy in football ever.
Yeah,
ever.
I agree.
Mercer, obviously, and then you host Alabama. So to me, it's like
3.
If Auburn went 3.5, we put the maybe next to Oklahoma, and it's like just win those games. Just win the games you're supposed to. Just win the games.
I would take 9-3 right now in spades. Spades, I would. And who knows? You punch up and win one of those games. You get Bama and Georgia at home. We'll see. We know how crazy Jordan Hare is. So the potential's there. They just got to put it all together. And I'm sick of saying that. That seems that it would be nice if it's like, hey, look, we've got this one deficiency we really got to work on. But it's everything has got to come together. And if it does, Auburn is in a position to have success. And that should give Auburn fans confidence. But that's why that Baylor game is massive. You need to start off on a positive note. You need to go out there and not just win, but play well.
Yep. No question. Happy signing day. Does that even mean anything anymore? Let's jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. Game Time has you covered. And with Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through what seemingly endless list of ticketing options. You're ready to make your next event even better. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Jake Crain of Crain & Company hanging out with us. Happy signing day. Omar Mabson expected to sign with the Auburn Tigers today, which is very exciting. I think he's a very good back. But what do we do about signing day? Do we keep it the way that it is currently? Do we extend the window to where after early signing day, you can sign kind of whenever you want? Like, I feel like this needs to change to some extent, but there's always going to be a reason to have like another window of time where kids can sign because of academic questions or reclassify. I mean, not everybody is in a situation where they know their immediate future in December. So like it's needed, I guess, but it doesn't feel like the current setup is the way it's going to go moving forward.
Well, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. This I don't even call this signing day. You can call this the late signing period. I call it the signing day deadline because that's really kind of what it is. From a high school standpoint, the new signing day is obviously in December, which I think is good. I mean, I like being able to get guys to want to enroll early, right? Starting your college career off early and then getting it done, just getting it done by December where most of your classes sign. But I do like having that open window, as you mentioned, between the December signing day and then this signing day deadline in February, where you can sign at any point once you get the go-ahead academically, or you feel good about it, or you jump through whatever hoops that it is. I see no problem with that. Who does that hurt, right? How is that going to hurt somebody? I'm all for opening it from December all the way to this point in February, because I think if you take this away, that just puts an unnecessary pressure on kids who may not qualify. Then you really automatically got to go JUCO, which isn't the worst thing now because apparently it doesn't hurt your eligibility. But no, this is no longer a signing day. This is a signing deadline, and I wish this is one of the few things on the calendar which I wish they would keep the same, and then opened up that window like you mentioned where, hey, if you want to sign on January 8th, you can sign on January 8th. You want to sign on January 20th, you can sign on January 20th. I think that would be the perfect way to go about it.
Like when Omar Mabson committed probably 2 weeks ago now, I felt like, it's like, okay, like why can't he just sign? Like, why can't he just go ahead and do this? Like, it doesn't seem, I don't know. It doesn't seem.
It does nothing but string both parties along. Right. Now I've got to wait to this certain date. Now I've got to, not that, you stop talking to a recruit after they commit or whatever, but now we got to sit here and do this dance. And then all of a sudden with NIL, what if somebody else comes in? And now I've got to, no, look, you make your decision. You should have the ability to sign either on signing day in December or through that window up to the signing day deadline, which is what we're at now. Yeah.
So we'll see if it changes. Have you watched a lot of Omar? I think he's fantastic.
No, I think he's a really good back. I think he's a solid back. And where he's from, obviously, adds a little bit to it. But no, I think it's a good signing. I think he's an SEC caliber running back. I think he's a guy that can continue to develop. I think he has a lot of, even more potential. I mean, he's put together pretty well, but getting into a weight program like Auburn's can do nothing but help. And, obviously, when you look at what Auburn lost with Jarquez Hunter trying to supplement that running back room, it's not going to hurt by any stretch of the imagination. So happy for him and his family, and it's a good pickup for Auburn.
Yeah. What do you think about the dynamic between him and Alvin Henderson? I did a show yesterday. Like, I think they complement each other pretty well. To me, I want every back in my room to be different. I want them all to be different, so you can use them in different ways, and the defense have to kind of think, okay, who's back there next to the quarterback. I think they have that. Like, moving forward, like I don't think Damari Austin and Omar Mabson are ever going to play relevant snaps in the same game. But like in the future, when it's Alvin and Omar and then Darrell Robinson, I like that trio a lot.
Yeah, and look, you got to have at least three. I mean, and these kids are smart enough to realize that. Yeah, you want a bunch of carries, but I tell you, I think, and I know, maybe this audience won't like this as much. I think Nick Saban explained it best. He's like, look, I can bring you in here and give you 25 carries, 30 carries a game for 3 years. And by the time you get to the NFL Combine, your Carfax is going to be as long as a Harry Potter book. You're going to be beat up. You're going to be overused. Or you can come in here. I can give you meaningful carries. I can throw you the ball. I can turn you into a good pass protector for 3 years, let you get yours, let you get your yards, but not overuse you. And then all of a sudden, you can look up and they're still taking running backs early. I mean, look at Bijan and look at Jahmyr Gibbs and some of these other guys. So the smart ones realize that, and they're really going to understand it once you get about halfway through the season and you're on one of those Tuesday practices with inside drill. It's nice to have help. And to your point, I think they do different things well. I like having a Swiss Army knife in the backfield. I mean, again, I'll use the Lions as another example. I mean, the difference between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is very vast, and defenses have to prepare for more. And the more I have to prepare for, the less time I have to focus on one thing.
Yeah. I think that's the way to do it for sure. And especially I mean, we're all assuming the market share of touches is going to be way different than last year because you don't have a Jarquez Hunter. Nothing against the guys that are on the roster, but like you don't have a guy who I think needs, 80% of the touches.
Well, to be honest, we wish the market share would have been a little bit heavier toward Jarquez Hunter last year, if we're going to be honest. I don't think Auburn utilized him nearly as much.
But I think we got to come to terms, like, when Hugh Freeze is head coach, like, I don't think that's what we're going to get. Like, I just don't think that's what his offense is.
Well, I mean, look, anytime you're in this RPO style, but there are some points where you're like, look, screw the RPO, turn around and hand this guy the ball. He's ripping Oklahoma to shreds in the fourth quarter. Hand him the ball. So, again, it goes back to the coaching. Yes, you want to run your system, but at some point, you got to give your alphas the ball when they're having success and in big moments. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes.
I don't remember if it was like the post game of the Kentucky game or the Monday presser, but he was like, I had to keep fighting myself. Like I wanted to throw it. And I'm like, no, I need to give it to Jarquez Hunter. And it's like, why are you telling us that? Like, why?
Yeah. Look, Hugh's very transparent. I love it about him.
I love it too, but it's like, Hugh, like, be careful, dude.
Here, just ask him to call it. Just, hey, you tell Jarquez we're going to hand him the ball on this play.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, big fan of Omar Mabson. We're expected to get him today, and that'll be fun. That'll be a big win for the Auburn Tigers. There's an interesting conversation that's emerged around spring, and Hugh Freeze's answer when he was asked about it has been different than other coaches throughout college football. I want to jump in on that in just a second, right here on Locked On Auburn. Jake Crain of Crain & Company hanging out with us today. So when you guys talked about this on your show, and it's been a national talking point. Like Matt Rule, the Nebraska coach, said that they may not have the spring game because he thinks other coaches are watching Nebraska's spring game and saying, yeah, we're going to tamper and poach their players, which is ridiculous for a million different reasons. But I'm fine. Like there's a big discussion that's been going on for years about like removing the spring game, which I get, whatever. But what Hugh Freeze said to us down in Mobile last week was about saying, hey, why are we doing spring when the guys still just got done out of the season? They're still recovering, a lot of them, and we don't have our entire team. And so he's saying like they wish that in the spring they were able to do some like non-contact type stuff, some teaching stuff, and then do OTAs in June where you can have like 10 contact practices when your whole team is there. He's like, I don't really see the downside of that. Then in July, we don't have them. They just kind of do their strength and conditioning stuff. And then in August, we get ready for the season. And I don't have a huge argument against it, Jake. You're muted, my guy. You are muted, and I want to hear you so bad. There we are.
So Matt Rule, here's what I think. Because most coaches that I know hate the spring game. Because it's almost like the Senior Bowl game. The game doesn't matter nearly as much as the practices.
Right.
I would be willing to bet that 90% of head coaches would rather just have another practice instead of the spring game. The spring game is for the fans, and it's great. But why not just have an open practice at the end, right? Do a little bit of scrimmaging in team like you normally do. They would rather have the practice, most of them. So I think Matt Rule couldn't come out and say, I want to cancel the spring game because the spring game is only for the fans, because Nebraska sells out for the spring game. It's a big moneymaker for them. So I think his reasoning wasn't really the truth. He wants to get rid of the spring game just because most coaches want to get rid of the spring game. That's why you see like the starting quarterback get like 2 drives if he's a solidified guy. You're more worried. The conversations we had at South Alabama were more about, please just don't let anybody get hurt during the spring game, because some guys will want to show out. Like it's more for the fans and the younger guys playing in the stadium. You could have a practice in the stadium if you wanted, but you'd much rather have the practice. As far as what Hugh Freeze is saying, I mean, it makes sense. I don't hate it. You're basically moving spring to June. That's what you're doing. And by doing that, you may actually eliminate the spring game if you only get that certain amount of OTAs. But I've got an even better fix.
Oh,
what if we kept spring where it was? And I get you don't have your whole team there. There's the transfer portal window and all that stuff. We keep spring the way it was during that time, or we move it to June. But in the spring game, you get to play an actual opponent, because you would actually get something out of that. No, it does not count. It is truly an exhibition. You would actually get something out of that. The game day atmosphere. You would get a different opponent to hit. The offense and defense knows what they're doing. But by this time at the end of spring during the game, and plus, you're not going to show anything in the spring game, try to dial stuff up that you're saving for the season so other teams can watch it, because coaches do watch the spring game. So why would Auburn not play somebody that would want to come, split the gate, play UAB? And you know what? God forbid something happens and you play your 2s and 3s and you lose. You played your 2s and 3s and lost. Bowl games don't even matter anymore, really, at the end of the day, for the same excuse.
Until you lose them. They matter if you lose them, it seems like.
And then you can use it to fire somebody if you really want to. But at the
I love that, though, because it's like, okay, if it is for the fans, here you go. I mean, what a better experience for the fans. And also, like, yeah, you're getting more information, no question about it. And then, just from the administration perspective, like, the amount of money that it would generate would be significantly more.
You would give us a college football game in the spring or in June. Nobody's going to, by that point, we're basically wandering around the desert,
sell
at
merch.
Mirages.
Yeah. I mean, the TV contract. I mean, there's nothing else happening football related that time of year. Like, ESPN would make some money off of that too. Like, I love that.
I'm not saying you play Ohio State or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. You get a group of 5 team to come in there. Hey, give you a little bit of money. Maybe you can upgrade your locker room or whatever. I just think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I like that too. Do you think, I mean, with as much change as we've seen in college football over the last 3 or 4 years, is that something that you think could happen? Or do you think the easier thing is to just alter the portal window and say, okay, maybe no more spring portal?
Well, they've already kind of changed the transfer portal window on the calendar, or at least the coaches and people voted on it to try and change it. I would much rather start when I know my whole team's there. It's like when we do predictions on Crain and Company in the fall. I'm waiting till the end of fall camp. I need to know who's hurt, who's on the roster, who's upset, whatever. So as far as the ability to change, I mean, so much has changed. Why would that? But maybe the easiest thing to do, if your complaint, like Hugh Freeze is that I don't have my whole team here, or at least I don't know who's going to be on my team even after spring, just flopping, either erasing the portal window or changing the timing of it. That would probably be the easiest thing. But man, I really want to play an opponent during that spring game and change the portal window. How about that? How about we do both of them, Zach? There we go. We fixed it.
Yeah, I'm very pro, like, move it back a little bit, because in the spring window, you still have like guys who like may want to leave, but they want to graduate from the school they spent the last 4 years
or see
at.
If they win a job, like if they could maybe make a move on a depth chart, or somebody gets hurt.
And I do understand like moving practice to after the portal window, because if you're a head coach, I mean, I talked about this specifically with the running back situation. Like, and Coach Freeze was asked about that last week. Like, how do you handle, you've got 3 guys that are expecting touches this spring. Like, how do you handle that over the spring? And he's like, I don't know. But he's got to know, because you got to give them the same amount of touches or they're all.
Yeah, you got to split reps with the 1s and 2s, and then
which isn't productive. Like, that doesn't make your team better.
Yeah, not unless there's a genuine competition, right?
Sure.
Unless you're just really trying to find. I mean, I was talking.
Do you think there's a genuine competition at running back at Auburn?
I think there will be.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I again, you go into there knowing, all right, this is who we think, right? This is how we feel. But you did just lose Jarquez, so there is an opening there. And there's always, whether it's in spring or it's in fall, there are good surprises and there's bad surprises. Just you're hoping you kind of land on more of the good surprises than the bad.
Yeah, sure. Jake Crain of Crain and Company. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Easy, man. YouTube, Roku. It's Crain and Company, Crain and Company. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you listen, go every weekday, 2 to 3 p.m. Central. Come hang out with us talking. Look, college football season, it never really ends. So come hang out with us. Yeah. Thank goodness it never really ends. Hey, please like the video if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe. And if you're listening on audio, please leave us a review. Subscribe there as well. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.